The April 20th regular Board of Education meeting will begin in a few moments. The time is now 5:59, and the board meeting will begin in approximately 1 minute. The time is now nearly 6 p.m. All meeting participants, please mute your microphones. All meeting participants, please ensure you do not have the YouTube live stream of this meeting pulled up on your devices. Thank you. And now the board chair shall begin the meeting.
Great. Thank you very much. This is second live stream meeting we've had this month. A new first. I would like to say welcome to everyone, and I call this meeting to order on April the 20th at 6 o'clock. First item of business, we do need to approve the agenda, so I need a motion to approve.
So move.
So move, Mr. Burgess.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bagley. All in favor, please raise your hands. I can see you this week. Thank you. Passes 5-0. Next are approval of the minutes, March 9th regular session and April 13th work session. So you've seen those and have them before you. So I do need a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved, Ms. Argo.
Second.
Second, Ms. Parrish. All in favor of that, please raise your hand. And I can see you, and that passes 5-0. Next, Dr. Branch, you had just a brief.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the time. Just wanted to take a minute to express our sympathy and sadness for the passing of Sergeant Carter Brank, who passed tragically this weekend. Sergeant Brank was one of our main points of contact for the school system, along with Captain James Hale. And we just wanted to express our appreciation for his service to our schools, our staff, our community. Carter was a good man and will be missed by all those. And I know the board echoes that as well. So thank you for giving us just a moment to honor the work and the person and express our sympathies for his family.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate you mentioning that. Next on our agenda is business services. Sarah Anna.
Good evening, everyone. Business Services has 5 items of information for tonight's board meeting. The first item of information is the cash report for March. The next item you have is a list of all vendors that were paid during the month of March. The third item of information is the budget report, and the third quarter of the fiscal year is complete, and revenues and expenses are where we would expect them to be. The fourth item of information is the ELOS report. The rolling average is slightly below the previous year by 1.1%. We are concerned about these collections in light of the public health emergency, and we will continue to watch these collections very closely. And the last item of information is the board report for ELOS 5. The revenues have been updated as of March. I wanted to point out that the final payment from the state for the North Oconee High School HVAC project has been received, and this is reflected in the state funding line item. Also, all expenditures have been updated as of March, and the North Oconee High School field lighting project has been added to the list of projects. And that concludes my report, unless there's some questions.
Are there any questions?
Just one.
Go ahead.
Sarah Anna, remind me, I think I remember this from when we talked about it before. I wasn't sure about the number, but didn't we include in the North Oconee lighting project the lights at the middle school as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that 772 is for all the lights at North Oconee and the Oconee Middle School as well?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? All righty. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Do appreciate it. Next item on our agenda is communications. Anissa?
Good evening. The communications report has one item of information and no action items. Tonight's item of information is graduation and honoring the class of 2020. First, here you will see the graphic that was shared on the website and on all three of our social media channels, as we are very pleased to host a virtual graduation ceremony during the original date and times of the North Oconee and Oconee County High School graduation ceremonies. These ceremonies will premiere on the school system's YouTube channel. There will be speeches included by individuals, including the principals, valedictorians, salutatorians, as well as year-long recap videos submitted by the high schools. The graduates are in the process of submitting photos of themselves in their caps and gowns for slides that will feature each graduate individually. The second part that I wanted to mention is in-person graduation, as we are currently in the planning stages for late July to be held in our high school stadiums. Speaking of the class of 2020, I wanted to reiterate that the last day for seniors is Thursday, May 7th, with opportunities until Thursday, May 14th to submit work. Seniors end early each year. For the rest of our students, the last day will be our original last day of Friday, May 22nd, which is our final Flex Friday. During the last 2 weeks of school, students will engage in a variety of activities such as club days, dress-up days, spirit days, and more. Next here you'll see some pictures of our high school stadiums completely lit up in their full glory. And so each night at 2020 military time, that's 8:20 p.m., for 20 minutes and 20 seconds, our high school stadium lights shine brightly to honor the class of 2020. This has received such a wonderful reaction from our community. In fact, on Facebook alone, this reached over 57,000 people, with over 1,100 people liking the post. Next, caps and gowns were picked up by our seniors this past Thursday, April 16th, on Packet Pickup Day, and seniors also picked up their signs. And high schools did such a wonderful job providing personalized signs to each of our seniors. You can see that each senior's name, they're actually printed on these signs. And seniors are now providing the school system with photos of them standing in their caps and gowns by their signs, and we will be sharing these photos in the coming weeks. Next, you can see there an example of the North Oconee sign. And then further down, you will see a collage of every single member of the class of 2020. And so this is on the main part of our website. And if you'll scroll down, you will see one for Oconee County High School and then another one for North Oconee High School. And I want to thank LifeTouch, our senior portrait provider, for their partnership in this class of 2020 collage project. These collages have been provided to seniors and their parents to download in high resolution. And these are also posted on the school system's website, each high school's website, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. And you can truly zoom in and see who these graduates are. We really wanted to showcase every single senior, and indeed, they are all shown here. And that concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Anissa, I would just like to thank you and the staff for everything you've done to showcase our seniors. And we certainly hope that later in the summer, we will be able to have them walk across the stage.
I'd like to echo, I know there's a lot of work that goes into this, and I appreciate you coordinating it. And we just thank you for your effort. Okay. I believe we'll move into the next, Nisa. I believe we have public communication.
Yes, sir. The board allows 5 minutes for comments from citizens who have been placed on the meeting agenda. As this meeting is being live streamed from a variety of locations due to the current school closure, there will not be an open 3-minute period to comment following agenda items. There will only be the 5 minutes for visitors who signed up before this meeting. The board requests that any visitor refrains from making any disparaging remarks about school system personnel. This provision protects board members from receiving information that might disqualify them from sitting on a tribunal should these issues come before the board at a later date. Generally, there will be no response to comments or questions posted by citizens at the meeting. All comments and questions will be received and taken under advisement by the board. When appropriate, a response will be made by the superintendent or a member of the board at or before the next regular session. However, any member of the board shall be free to respond and make public comments if he or she elects to do so. We do have a visitor this evening. Visitor, please state your name, address, and topic. We will then begin the 5-minute timer for your remarks.
Thank you. This is John Daniel. My address is 1922 Elder Road. I'm chairman of the Oconee County Board of Commissioners. Thank you, Chairman Odom. I appreciate the chairman and the superintendent approving my application to speak tonight. I'd like to cover 3 areas this evening. Number 1, the joint use agreement between the Board of Education and the Board of Commissioners. Number 2, the Civic Center HVAC project. And number 3, upcoming joint town halls. Before I get started, I want to share my appreciation to the Board of Education for accepting the Department of Education waiver to supply food to children while school is closed to in-person instruction. I understand there were some reservations about accepting the waiver. However, I appreciate you providing this valuable service to the children of Oconee County. Thank you for making that choice. I also understand there is some discussion to the possibility of extending the Department of Education waiver through the summer months. And I'd encourage the Board of Education to accept the opportunity to continue feeding children through the summer if that's available. The first item I'd like to talk about is the school use agreement. It's not clear from the agenda presented on the website if the school use agreement is up for consideration tonight. But since the Board of Education did direct staff to work with Facilitron to determine direct costs for usage, I do want to point out a couple of items based on previous presentations and previous BOE public discussions. A discrepancy exists between the actual hourly usage and the hourly usage reported by Facilitron. Facilitron reports that the Board of Commissioners is using 2,836 hours of school facilities, at the same time reporting only 2,000 hours of total usage is available. Our records show that the actual usage for that time period is 1,747 hours, and that includes use of the microfields and summer sports camps. Now, Board of Education program participation continues to grow as the Oconee County school system grows. And it appears that 6-year-old data is used as a baseline to show a 105% increase in facility usage by the Board of Commissioners. If the actual number of 1,747 hours is used, you'll see an accurate picture of a 26% increase in hourly usage. Also, it should be noted that as the hourly usage has grown, the Board of Education has added facilities such as gyms and outdoor lighting. In addition, the Board of Commissioners has shifted usage away from both high schools and does not use Oconee County Primary School nor Oconee County Elementary School at all. The only outdoor events held at high schools are youth football, which produced over $4,000 in booster club donations for each school. The Board of Commissioners uses only Oconee County High School auxiliary gym for indoor sports. Now, the Board of Education does invoice the Board of Commissioners for some custodial fees and also for 50% of the gym floor refinishing. Our records indicate that the Board of Education uses Board of Commissioner facilities for 871 hours. The Board of Commissioners does not charge any fee to the Board of Education under our existing agreement and will not charge the Board of Education under the new agreement. The Board of Commissioners schedule provided by Board of Education staff at the Board of Education request would result in a charge of $30,270 for those 871 hours. It's important to note that our posted fee schedules do not cover Board of Education usage of facilities. Charges for the Board of Education usage is governed by our current joint use agreement and will also be governed by the new agreement. The Board of Commissioners will not charge the Board of Education for usage of facilities. Appendix B should clearly indicate a $0 charge for the Board of Commissioners fee schedule. Second matter I'd like to talk about is the Oconee County Civic Center HVAC project. After watching the meeting last week, I did some research into the HVAC project for the Oconee County Civic Center. Finance department level phone conversations occurred on the HVAC project prior to RFP number 20-12-012 posting to the Oconee County website in January of 2020. Email communications on March 27th included a copy of the project budget and indicated funding for the project is for FY or fiscal year 21. At no point did we send over a $99 invoice asking for payment. The Civic Center charges are historically considered budgetary items. We did communicate an unusual and a large expense over 14 months before payment will be requested and prior to your FY21 budget preparations. I do agree with Chairman Odom. We do have an opportunity here to clarify who we should communicate with and on what subjects. Third matter is our joint town halls.
Chairman
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
I'm going to give you one more minute, please, on that last item.
Okay, very good. The Oconee County Board of Commissioners has indicated 3 dates for joint town hall meetings. Those are May 28th, 2020, August 27th, 2020, January 28th, 2021. I believe some of the comments made at the last meeting place a spotlight on the need for these joint open meetings, and only direct board-to-board communication and debate will bring about an end to our current communication. So, in summary, I just want to bring up that we'd ask that you ask the superintendent to reconcile and report back on the discrepancy between Board of Commissioners' hours usage for Board of Education facilities. Likewise, to reconcile and report back on the discrepancy between Board of Education hours of usage for Board of Commissioners facilities. Consider having Facilitron make a direct report to the Board of Education in an open meeting. And also acknowledge that the Board of Commissioners will not charge the Board of Education for facility use under the new joint use agreement. And finally, to acknowledge the joint town hall meeting dates and confirm your participation. Clearly, we need to develop a path forward working for the benefit of our community, and hope these town hall meetings will be the process to facilitate that. On behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I want to thank the Board of Education faculty and staff as our community navigates through COVID-19. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the extra time, and this concludes my remarks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Daniel, thank you for your comments. Please exit from the call at this time. We shall now return the meeting to the board chair.
Okay. Thank you. I'm on. Okay. Are there any other comments by any members of the board?
Tom,
Yes, sir.
I want to just make a couple of comments about one issue that John just talked about, the HVAC repairs at the Civic Center. When I look back at some of the dates that were involved in that project, the RFP was issued on January 10th by the county. My experience in my career in developing RFPs like that is that it would take staff, at least a week or two at best to prepare an RFP like that deals with all the specifics and specifications and requirements that you're going to have, especially when it comes to things like replacing air conditioning systems and also, and given the timing that it was issued on the January 10th, which would have been right after everybody came back from the holidays, it would seem that was probably in the works well before Christmas by somebody on the staff level in preparing an RFP that was then ready to be issued on January 10th. The county then had a pre-bid meeting on February 4th with a requirement that all the bids for the work that was in the RFP be submitted back to the county on February 20th. To the best of my knowledge, the first communication that we got specifically about that project was when the county finance director emailed Sarah Anna about, sort of alerting her to the cost that might be coming down the road for the air conditioning component of that project, which John referenced a while ago was in late March. It's then obvious that they actually approved the county went on and approved the project on April 7th, but it appears that they might have been willing to or prepared to approve it on March 31st, but waited till April 7th to approve it. My point is that it's pretty clear that for a couple of months at least or more, the county was mindful of discussing and preparing for some major modifications and ultimately expenses at the Civic Center. I don't have any issue with a cost associated with the air conditioning for the Civic Center. It's been a great facility. We all use it, and we all know air conditioners break and need to be replaced. And so at some point, obviously, that was going to be necessary. I think what I want to say to all of you guys is what appears to me, though, is that there was a lack of cooperation, coordination early on with this project with either our staff or even members of the board for a facility that we all share a joint responsibility for. I went back and looked at the agreement that was signed 28 years ago by all the people that were in these jobs long before we were ever around, that set up the agreement of a shared responsibility for the Civic Center between the Board of Education and the Board of Commissioners. And there's a separate section. There's a whole separate section in that agreement that talks about cooperation. And I want to just read the first sentence because I think it's pertinent to the point I'm trying to make. That's section 11, which is entitled Cooperation, says the parties hereto agree, and the parties being the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education, because we're both joint parties to the agreement. The parties hereto agree to cooperate and confer with each other from time to time in the operation and use of said cultural recreational facility in order to maximize the benefit for Oconee County school students and Oconee County citizens. And it goes on to reference the fact that there are tax dollars associated with this, and in the desire to promote savings for tax dollars, it was important for both bodies to coordinate and confer with each other whenever there were major changes to be made at the Civic Center. So I think my issue with what John is talking about is not that we're being asked to pay for the costs of the air conditioning replacement at the Civic Center, but the lack of beforehand cooperation and discussion with us or the staff about the preparation of the work. They only called us after the RFP was developed, after it was issued, after it was submitted for bid, and then once they generally knew what the cost was going to be, then we were brought in and says, oh, by the way, the agreement says that we all need to share this. And I think my parting point on that is that doesn't strike me as the kind of cooperation that we all believe is appropriate and necessary. We've talked on and on about this, and in my career, anytime two people and two organizations are both responsible for sharing the cost of maintaining and operating a certain facility, then they coordinate with each other when they're talking about spending dollars for those types of expenses. And it doesn't appear to me that that occurred before the fact. It only occurred after the fact, once all the decisions and all the work and all the preparation was made. So I just want to bring that forward because it's a perspective that I have that's not inconsistent with other perspectives on other issues that we generally talk about.
Are there any other perspectives or any other comments?
Can I follow up on that with one more thing?
Certainly.
Chairman Daniel didn't talk about the Malcolm Bridge road changes, but I have felt since listening to the town hall meeting the other day and having conversations with some of the people that are most impacted over there, I felt like it might be important and appropriate for us to at least put forward an additional timeline for that whole road project and road changes that includes other information that maybe up to this point hadn't been developed or hadn't been shown and hadn't been discussed. So I kind of wanted to ask if we could put up a timeline that's been sketched out for this project, and I want to just briefly go through this timeline that hopefully everybody on this call can see, that goes all the way back to the fall of 2018. In the fall of 2018, we were informed by the Board of Commissioners that they had an intent and a desire to build two roundabouts in front of the two Malcolm Bridge schools, primarily due to the impending construction of a shopping center that was being permitted across the street. That was 19 months ago. So 19 months ago, we started this conversation with the Board of Commissioners about the idea of road changes over there in front of the school. And this one, like I said, began with the notion that the shopping center was bringing about a need to adjust the road network over there. That conversation and that discussion went on for several months, and in the March of 2019, we had conversations with the Board of Commissioners where they were unable to ensure us that the roundabouts would be able to be constructed during the summer months while school was out. We had expressed a concern that if they were going to be conducting these road changes, we really need those changes to be done while school was out so that it wouldn't disrupt the flow of parents and students and the employees at those two schools coming in and out. They were unable to guarantee to us at that time that the roundabouts could be constructed during that time frame. So as we all know, in May, we decided not to transfer the property that they had been asking for to build those roundabouts, or at least the one of them, and to ask them if they would slow this down a little bit and discuss some other options. And then we know that they indicated to us that no, they intended to proceed on with this one option. It also became apparent at that same time that the scenario that the Board of Commissioners was pursuing was that they intended for the developer of the shopping center to not only pay for, but to develop and build the roundabout in front of the parent entrance. A few months later, sometime during the summer of 2019, we all learned that the developer had changed his mind. Not sure exactly why and what the specifics were or what transpired, but at some point during the summer of 19, it became known that the developer had decided that the roundabout was not in his best interest, was not what he needed for his shopping center, and was going to move on with instead a more traditional turning lane approach to his development that I noticed he's actually started clearing some property for. In September, then, we all remember the letter we sent to the Board of Commissioners expressing a whole series of concerns that by this point had become obvious to us about their proposal and the workings of it, and asking them to work more closely with us in coming up with a more mutually agreeable solution of a road change in front of our schools. And I guess I would point out that we don't generally have debates with them or discussions with them about road changes that they're making all over the county. But in the few places in front of our 11 schools, we felt like it was, we had an interest and a responsibility to put forward some comments and thoughts about the way that would affect the operations of our school. The next month, we had some informal conversations with the board members and developed what we thought was a deal. So in October of 2019, we discussed with them a compromise position on the road changes over there that would basically have said we will accept and not raise any more objections to the roundabout that you, the Board of Commissioners, believe is necessary in front of the bus entrance. If you will now, because the developer is not going to build a roundabout in front of the parent entrance, will instead put that any more changes in front of the parent entrance off for the foreseeable future until we can have more conversations and more debate about what's really necessary and what's really appropriate there. In February then, and so we thought we had a deal at that point. We thought that's where we were. They were going to build a roundabout in front of the bus entrance. Nothing was going to be done in front of the parent entrance, and we really didn't talk about it anymore. And then we all know that we were asked to come to some conversations in February where the board then came back to us and said, no, now what we want to put forward is a proposal to do some other road changes in front of the parent entrance, right in, right out. And that's the proposal that's currently in front of people to consider now. And it's the proposal that was the topic of conversation at the town hall meeting that they had last week. And then the next month, the Board of Education asked the Board of Commissioners, because this is such a major change, has a direct impact on hundreds and hundreds of families that go into both of those schools on a daily basis. We asked them to conduct a specific, topic-specific town hall public hearing and discussion that we would make room for at the middle school over there to discuss all those changes. We know that they decided they didn't want to do it that way. They were going to do it in the town hall. They did. And then last couple of weeks ago, we sent out some information to all the various parents that are affected by the two schools over there, the elementary school and the middle school. But I thought it was important that some additional components of a timeline be put out there for a couple of reasons. One, there seems to always have been this perception that we don't have conversations and we're not discussing issues with the Board of Commissioners. I think we do. And it's apparent that on this one issue, we've been having this conversation for 19 months now. The problem seems to be that we can discuss and we can debate all we want, but there doesn't seem to be any room for compromise. Even when last October, we thought we had created a compromise arrangement for one roundabout and no other changes in front of the middle school that would at least have been workable. That wasn't apparently agreed to either, even though I thought we had that understanding. And now we're faced with yet another change, another alteration in front of the middle school. So I wanted to put this forward. I wanted to at least have another set of timeline data points out there for everybody who's going to wind up being affected by what's being done over there, so that they at least know more of the full history about how we went from 2 roundabouts that a developer was going to build, one of them, to today, what we are now discussing and debating, and looks like may wind up being done in front of those 2 schools over there.
Excuse me. Okay. Other comments? Go like I'm going around the table if we were there live. Mr. Bagley.
Yeah, I'd just like to confirm that we do meet with the Board of Commissioners when we have common interests that are affected by circumstances or proposed actions. And with that being said, eventually each group will have differing priorities. And it couldn't be probably more evident in this particular scenario. As Mr. Burgess said, we've had no complaints that I'm aware of about the current traffic management at Malcolm Bridge Road. And on the contrary, we've had great appreciation from the stakeholders of how safe it is with the current traffic management. Now, I can greatly appreciate the concern for a deputy's safety while controlling the traffic at the school entrances. Lord knows we don't want anybody to get hurt while doing their job. But I can understand where that would be one of the Board of Commissioners' priorities. But we have a different priority. Our priority as a Board of Education is the safety of the children. And it must be our priority, and always has been a determining factor when we make decisions that affect our children, the parents that take them back and forth to school, the buses that take them back and forth to school, and the staff that help manage that day in and day out. I agree with Mr. Burgess that I was in on some of these informal discussions with Chairman Daniel and another Board of Commissioner member. And we as a board, I think we went back and spoke and presented those conversations, and we did concede that the roundabout at the bus entrance would address some of the Board of Commissioners' concerns about speeding and future growth that they foresee coming up in that area that would increase traffic. However, with that concession, that we would no longer disagree with them about the roundabout at the bus entrance, we understood, and I think Mr. Burgess and I both understood, that no modifications would be done at the parent entrances until after 2021. And the reason that was there is this would allow us, in the spirit of cooperation, to study what would be the safest access in and out and align ourselves with the intent of the new Sheriff's Department administration after the elections. I'll say in my 30 years of experience of traffic flow and development, there's nothing safer for the children, which is our priority, of the school system than flashing blue lights and a uniformed individual that is in total control of the traffic. Whether that's a county deputy or some other school traffic controller, this is a very common and predominant at schools and a scenario that's used statewide. Our analysis on the 2 top choices, as was stated in the town hall, leads us to the conclusion that the current median proposal with the right in and right out only, or the roundabout at a parent entrance, create a much less safe condition for our children than the current traffic control, not only for the roadway, but within the school property as well. So I guess in what I would say in conclusion, that the communication does occur, but so do disagreements and priorities. And this is where the compromise is warranted. I'd just like to ask the BOC to honor the compromise that we feel like was agreed upon, and I think the other Board of Commissioner agrees that that was what we thought coming out of those meetings. I just wish that they would honor that compromise that was done last October, so all options can be explored for the safety of our school children moving forward.
Tom.
Yes,
Tom,
sir. Yes,
let
sir.
me, Wayne mentioned something that made me remember a point that I wanted to ask Jason a question. You know, we've had this, you know, this discussion's been out there about the relationship between the way this works with the sheriff's office. I wanted to ask Jason, what types of conversations, what types of discussions have you as our staff had with the sheriff over the last year or two about the way our operations work and the way they function, given their perspective and our perspective?
Yes, yes, sir. In the 8 years I've been superintendent, we've met with the sheriff's department every year. We've actually increased that in the last year or so to 2 times a year. We meet at the beginning and the middle of the year and talk about safety and security protocols. And each time I bring operations staff, student services staff. So Brock Toole, Dallas LaDuff, and the sheriff brings his staff as well. Captain Hale, and oftentimes one of the members that's in charge of directing of traffic, coordinating the directing of traffic. And each time we talk about safety and security protocols, and each time we've left that meeting with the mutual understanding that the safety and security protocols that are currently in place should continue. And that's the agreement of both the school system and the sheriff's office each time we've met.
Okay, well, thanks, because that at least to me, it says that at least with the current administration, we don't necessarily have a big issue. And to Wayne's point, part of the conversation we were having about the compromise back in the fall was if we just slow down, don't make any changes in front of the parent entrance, because we're going to have a new sheriff in a year at that point, and let's have those conversations. Let's have some new conversations with the new sheriff about the long-term arrangement that we may need to have. So that's what's been puzzling to me, is if there's no big issue with the current sheriff and those relationships are good, and we're going to have a new sheriff. It seemed that a reasonable way to approach this was to let us have those same conversations with the new sheriff and their new administration, so that we could prepare for how we would need to operate going forward in cooperation with the sheriff. You know, I'm gonna just say a couple more things, and then I'm gonna be quiet. This whole issue is not one that was ever brought forward by the parents who drive in and out of that school every day. It's not an issue that was brought forward by the Board of Education to the Board of Commissioners, suggesting that we had traffic concerns, traffic problems that we needed some help in solving. It was brought forward by the Board of Commissioners themselves because of a shopping center development across the road that 19 months later has devolved into this debate that we find ourselves in with no good solution. There, as Wayne mentioned, there are serious flaws in either a roundabout solution, which the county could do without involving us, or the right in, right out solution that they're now forwarding, which they obviously can do without our involvement one way or the other. And I guess when I back up and look at this, I think about with the level of scarce resources that we're all dealing with, and the likelihood that those resources are going to get even more scarce over the next year as we all deal with the rebuilding of our economy. You would think that scarce resources would be put towards the highest priority. And I don't know that I've ever seen a survey, and I wonder if you ask every citizen in this county, what do you believe are the most serious traffic situations that need immediate addressing across the entire county? I have to question whether or not this change in front of the school over there would be in anybody's top 5. And if you back that up, if you contrast that with the notion that scarce resources need to be put towards the most critical problems, there just seems to be a mismatch here. And so, as Wayne said, we can debate, we can discuss, which we can have conversations. But if there's an unwillingness to compromise, then what's going to happen is the Board of Commissioners is going to change the road network over there because it's clearly in their responsibility and authority to do, regardless of anything we say. And so I don't know at that point how much more debate or discussion or what more value I can add to any more conversation about it than what I've already said. And I'll be quiet.
I believe you're still muted, Chairman.
Excuse me, I'm going back and forth here.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Parrish, did you have any comment on anything at this time?
Yeah, I'll just say thank you both, Tim and Wayne. I think you did a good job. I appreciate the timeline just showing, from our perspective, what took place. And I wholeheartedly agree with Wayne that I've had several people approach me, offering to facilitate between the two boards. And it's definitely not a lack of communication. We have communication. We have I think an open dialogue with every member of the Board of Commissioners, and I'm grateful for that. I think it's great. But again, like Wayne said, that doesn't mean that you always agree, but you try to work towards compromise. So thank y'all.
Okay. Ms. Argo?
I would also like to thank Wayne and Tim for sharing the timeline and discussing the things that came up when they met with John Daniel and another commissioner. And I would like to echo what Tim said. In the 11 and a half years I've been on the school board, I have never had a call from a single parent saying that traffic in front of any school was horrible and we need to do something about it. I've never had that concern voiced to me. So as Mr. Burgess said, I question why this is their priority.
Okay. Thank you very much. Unless there's an added comment, we do have a need for executive session this evening. So we need a motion to approve. You have it there?
Yes. I make a motion the board adjourn to executive session to discuss or deliberate upon personnel matters as described on an affidavit that will be attached to the minutes.
Thank you. Ms. Argos made that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Parrish. All in favor, please raise your hands. Best that I can see, that passes 5-0. We're adjourned to executive session. So, Anissa.
All right, if you will all please just mute your microphones.